TL, doctor, employed son-in-law want to live with us to avoid paying rent. I have a strange situation that I was hoping for some advice on. My husband and I are both in our 60s and retired. We live in New Jersey. We have 2 children. Our older child, 31 meters, is married, no children yet. He has always been extremely frugal. I believe he and his wife make a decent income, but they are the type that never eat out, stay in hostels for vacation, etc. Up until March 2020, my son and his wife lived in New York City, where their jobs were. When COVID happened, we encouraged them to come temporarily stay with us in March 2020 until the public health emergency improved. We did this because we were worried for their safety living in the COVID hotspot of New York City. They happily accepted our offer and moved in. Their lease ended several months later, and they did not renew it, and continued to live with us. Both of their jobs were ultimately made permanently remote, freeing them to live anywhere. Yet they didn't express any interest in moving out. They were generally fine house guests, but my husband and I wanted to have our home to ourselves again as a couple, and felt it was strange to have our son-in-law living with us long term. We brought up the subject of them moving out in April 2021, after they'd been staying with us for 13 months. They both expressed that they enjoyed living with us and did not want to leave, and that they loved being able to save so much money by not paying rent. I know the biggest appeal of living with us for them is that it's free housing. We gave it another few months and then told them we really thought it best if they got their own place. They did move out then to our doll's parents' home in Georgia, where they lived for the next 6 months. I spoke to our doll's parents at some point during the time, and they similarly expressed frustration and concern about the situation. My son and Dill did eventually sign a lease in Georgia, where they lived for the next year. 3 months ago, they told us they were planning to go to our summer beach house for a temporary change of scenery. We let our children have free use of our beach house for what we expect to be short-term stays. We go to our beach house sporadically during the summer. Well, they are still at our beach house. I checked with my Dill's parents, who told me their lease in Georgia ended, and they asked for their help to sell/dispose of their furniture in the apartment. It appears they are living at our beach house with no plans to move out. I spoke to my son about this, and he said they didn't enjoy living in Georgia and are taking some time to decide where they would like to move to. He mentioned how nice it was to not pay rent. He said if we aren't okay with him living at our beach house temporarily, although I'm not sure how temporary this is, he and his wife will move back to her parents' home. Although from talking to our doll's parents, they don't want them moving back in with them either. I'm really stuck about what's going on here. My son and Dill are both employed and sane, well-adjusted people. This isn't like a failure to launch situation. I understand not paying rent is appealing, but surely having your own space and place is appealing too. Does anyone have any advice? I'm hesitant to kick them out of our beach house, which will essentially be uninhabited from September to May, but my husband thinks they really need to live on their own and be adults, and that we should kick them out. I should add that we'd be happy to have them stay with us temporarily if they'd fallen on hard times, unemployment etc., or indicated they wanted to stay with us temporarily as they were saving their money for something like a down payment, but that's not the situation. They just want to live with us, or in our home indefinitely. Where is the money saved on rent going? Are they saving up for something? Living beyond their means in other ways? Are they in low-wage careers? You mention explicitly that they are not saving for a down payment, so you deserve some sense of what they are saving for. If they are trying to retire at 40 or something, they should be paying you rent. What does it cost to maintain the summer house? And who is paying utilities? You should charge them rent, maybe cheaper than market, but still reasonable for what they are getting. If they don't like that, then don't worry about where they go. Dill's parents will have to make their own decision about this. If you're curious, you could ask about future financial goals. As another commenter mentioned, maybe they are trying to retire early or something. Whatever it is though, they should understand that their own well-being should not come at the expense of others. If someone is going to live at their parents' home to save on paying rent, then the least they can do is help pay for utilities, any repairs on the house that might crop up, and replacing things in the house if it comes to that. Also being willing to do yard work as well. Basically help their parents out while they stay there as an apology of sorts for imposing on them. It's time to have the uncomfortable conversation. Your son and Dill are taking advantage their own parents' generosity and are freeloading. They should, and probably do, know better. Remind your son that the beach house is for shared family use, not a squat for him to avoid rent in. On top of the fact that he's not sharing it with his parents and sibling, the house is getting heavier use than is intended. Set a timeline for them to be out and stand firm. Best of luck. I think all of the parents involved here need to sit down with these two and have a very candid conversation about their freeloader point of view. All the parents seem to be fed up with this, but no one wants to be the bad guy. Make them pay rent at every place they stay. Plus, get them to sign a lease with the fixed end date and the conditions under which they can stay. I would move from place to place if my housing was free too. So it's time to remove that incentive from them. This is what I thought too. Just charge them rent, then it's no longer rent free. He shouldn't get a free house because he doesn't feel like paying rent. That's insane. I would understand if maybe they were on hard times, but just not feeling like it is not a reason to freeload off of someone else's goodwill. I will warn you as a lawyer, depending on how long they've lived in the beach house, they may be legal tenants. This applies even if you never gave them express permission to stay indefinitely, if you never had a lease, and even if they never paid or had any intention of paying rent. If this is the case and you want them gone, you would have to follow your state's eviction process. The longer they stay, the stronger their claim to being a tenant. This is so true. NJ has a ton of protections towards tenants as well, so the law tends to lean in their favor. Why would they move if they can live for free without pressure from you? If you don't tell them to leave, they are going to keep milking it. Dill's parents can't deal with their issues with them, so I wouldn't get involved there. Let them sort that out. However, you say the beach house is for temporary family use, and if they are occupying it full time, it makes it impossible for others to really enjoy it. I'd let them know they have X days to vacate, and know they cannot stay with you. Where they end up is on them. Unless they have been blowing through their money because they haven't had to pay rent, they should have enough for a security deposit in first and last month on a place of their own. They will figure it out. You should ask your son and Dill to pay below market rent, discount for family, if they are still staying at your beach house. The rental income can be spent on vacations for yourself and maintenance/repairs to the beach house in the future. Another option is to encourage your son and Dill to buy a house/condo for themselves to live in. That way they will be paying off a property and won't be just wasting money on rent. In addition to this, if you are going to let them stay, draw up a formal lease agreement for them to rent the beach house. Consider if you want it to be month to month, 6 months, whatever. Presumably you want them to be out before next summer so that you and other family can enjoy the beach house too. This would be a good place to make that very clear. I would also make sure to start discussing where they are planning to move prior to the lease ending to make sure they don't try to tack on a few extra months. Ask them what their plans are. Are they paying down debt and saving up to buy a house? Are they saving and investing all their money so that they may retire early? Are they saving all of their money for a potential crash and investing it all after the crash? A lot of very successful and wealthy investors are expecting quite a big crash. Yes, it's not unreasonable to ask them for rent. It is not unreasonable to ask them to find a place of their own. And of course you always have the opportunity to sell the house and buy a smaller place. My mother-in-law's rule is that everyone gets 2 free weeks a year and 2 tickets to a Bills game. If you want anything more than that, you pay for it. They are going to keep doing this as long as you let them. They should absolutely 100% be paying rent and contributing to offset the use and the wear and tear on the house, no matter where they go. I would suggest you make it clear that no matter which of your houses they live in, they pay rent. I would suggest your in-laws make the same rule. Bills game? Are they taking adoption applications? Hi, I'm around your son's age and I live in a home my dad owns, but I pay full rent. He doesn't upcharge me to make a profit. I just pay the bills so he's even. I would never expect him to let me live anywhere for free. When I was 25, I fell on hard times and needed to stay for a few months with my dad while he still lived in the house. I still had to pay $250 a month for my room, and I was okay with it. Maybe my dad's a jerk, but it seems like you're way too accommodating to your adult son and his adult wife. Seems like your dad's asked, op has indicated she has done nothing of the sort which has enabled them to do it. The right thing would be for them to voluntarily pay, but if they are never asked, why would they contribute anything? This is ridiculous. He mentioned how nice it was to not pay rent. Yeah, no shit, look buddy, we all pay rent and mortgage. It's part of being an adult and living on planet Earth. They are in their 30s. We just bought our first house together. 30 over 33. This is pathetic, honestly. Kick the losers to the curb. I agree. I get when your kids are younger and you're trying to help them out, but there's two of them that could be working to pay rent. They just might need to lessen their standards and get something smaller / cheaper if they don't wanna be paying so much. This situation isn't an easy one for a parent, especially ones trying to be helpful, but I think it's for that reason that they need to learn not to be taking advantage of your kindness. They're probably trying to fire while burning every bridge in the process. Yup, this instantly gave me fire vibes. I don't knock it, I'm trying to pursue it myself, but I've always paid my parents / in-laws a reasonable rent when living in their residences, since I've started working, and have since moved out. Ops kids sound like the miserable sort, air-like but without the introspection and very happy to make others pay for their way. My fellow ethnics are probably so confused right now, lol. Two options, charge rent or change the locks on the beach house. You need to sit them down and tell them that rent is no longer free. They are adults and know exactly what they are doing to you. They are moochers. With all the money they've saved, they can without a doubt buy their own house now. OMG, I'd love the drama of op just changing all the locks and only giving keys to family members who don't abuse their generosity. Please do this op and report back. Even if you wanted them to live with you, they ought to be contributing to the household. This isn't a situation where your kids are struggling for safe housing. And taking over your beach house is so tacky. You are kind enough to share that with your family for vacations, not so one kid can unfairly monopolize it. Seriously, when I lived with my mom, I paid half of her monthly rent. These kids are mooches. Kick them out. My husband and I live with my parents. We want to leave so badly, and so does my parents. We are saving up for a down payment and live in one of the most expensive areas in the country. We are over halfway there and will move out within the next year. If we had the money we would leave like today, lol. I don't get it. He is married. Don't they want privacy? My husband and I would love that and can't wait to have enough to have our own space. I don't understand. I thought the same thing up till the beach house part. They have plenty of privacy there, ignoring the fact that they are not the only ones with keys. Why on earth would you let two able-bodied, employed adults live in your house rent-free for all that time? They should have been contributing to your household the minute they moved in. Same W/Dill's parents. They should have charged them rent. The sad truth is that your frugal son and Dill are so incredibly cheap that they are accepting offers to stay with us for a bit and expecting to freeload forever. Of course they like not paying rent. Who wouldn't? Ask them to please vacate your beach house immediately before they decide that they are never leaving. And don't concern yourself with where they go. They can probably afford a mansion W/all the money they are saving by taking advantage of their families. Maybe give Dill's parents a heads up that you're asking them to leave and that they said they'll just move back in with them so they know it's coming and hopefully prepare themselves to say no. If they have been living frugally on two incomes without paying rent, they may have enough money saved to buy a home in a low cost of living area, or at least get a good start on owning with a hefty down payment and mortgage payments lower than rent would be. If they really like not paying rent, just imagine how great it will feel to not pay rent and have equity in a home of their own that is likely appreciating in value. And as they keep saving, they can upgrade houses or buy properties to rent out. You should open his eyes to the possibilities of making his money work for him in a lovely home that you would love to visit. Yeah, they really should be investing in their own home. Can you adopt me? I too want to not spend money. Time to rip the band-aid off. Yikes. Honestly, I'm a little bit shocked that the appeal of saving on rent outweighed their desire for privacy as a couple for so long. I think you have to have a difficult conversation and tell them that they need to make their own way on the housing front. They are taking advantage of everyone at this point. If they don't want to make a commitment to a specific location long enough to buy property or sign lease, they can try out different cities using Airbnb rentals until they choose a location. They should have plenty of money saved up to do something like that. And FYI, they could have stayed in New York City during COVID. Literally everything can be delivered to you and laundry sent out. They wouldn't have needed to even leave the apartment. I'm sorry that your kindness turned into this problem. Why aren't any of the parents charging them rent? Either accept that they are comfortable with the level of privacy that living with a set of parents entails, and which lets them advance financially, or both of you pairs of parents need to unconditionally put your feet down and inform them that they will not be staying at any of these houses. Period. That's it. Kick them out of the beach house. They're adults with jobs. They will figure it out, since they have years worth of rent saved to help them on their next steps. My advice is tell them that if they stay in the beach house they will be paying you rent and utilities and then charge them a market-based rent price. Same if they come to live with you. Tell them their free rent time is over. Suggest to your adults' parents that they do the same if they ask to move back with them, though it's up to them ultimately if they want to, and that's not your problem either way. Your son and Dill are taking advantage of you and you don't have to let them just cause they are family. You helped them out when they needed it. They don't need it now. They just don't want to pay rent. This is ridiculous. Why are you putting up with this nonsense? There is a cost to you to have that beach house. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but one you have to have. He's taking advantage of you and seems to have no problem doing it. That's an issue. I would charge them rent and at the moocher's rate, above market rate, so they find their own place and stop mooching. Tell them if they stay in the beach house they will need to pay rent and their deadline is April 30th, and then they will have find somewhere else to go. Make sure your agreement is in writing, with signatures and notarized. Some people really have no shame using their own family. It seems like they've got stable work from home jobs. If I was in their situation, I'd pay my mom rent, even if it's something small like $500, to help out with the mortgage/food/utilities. Stop enabling their behavior and make them move out or pay you rent. I don't see what the problem is. You said it yourself, they haven't fallen on hard times. My answer would be a hard no. They are grown adults. I'm sorry if it hurts their feelings, but having children in your home forever isn't healthy for either party. You did your job and more raising him and taking care of them when they needed it. They are ripping you off, they know it, and will not learn how to be responsible for themselves if you keep allowing this to happen. This will hurt them more than help them in the long run. As much as I love my children, I will never for any reason allow them to mooch off of my finances if they aren't saving for a home, in college, or have some major health issue that prevents them from being alone on their own.